Hello everyone. So we're basically going to be changing the front brake pads on my 2016 Lexus IS350 F-sport. So the first step is going to lift the car up, make sure it's sturdy. I went in and took out the bolts already. Next I'll be taking the wheel and tire off, and then we'll see how much access we have to the bolts right behind the caliper. Alright, so we got the tire off. And next we're going to hit it with some brake cleaner, kind of clean up some of the brake dust. There's two bolts back here, this one and the one at the bottom right there. We're going to go ahead and unbolt those, and the whole caliper assembly should come out. And from there what we're going to do is remove these bolts here and then access the brake pads. So one thing to keep in mind is to keep the brake reservoir kind of slightly open. We do that to kind of alleviate some of the pressure. We have to do that because when you take the old brake pads out, and then in order to put the new ones in, you're gonna have to decompress it. And when you're decompressing, you're actually pushing fluid back through that line, and the fluid's gonna kind of start to kind of come up here. So if that's not open, you're gonna kind of just build pressure in there, and you don't want that. And the way to decompress this is to use some C-clamps. Okay, so I used a 17mm socket here to take off a couple of bolts that were in the back here that were holding the caliper assembly in place. So there's your caliper, there's your two brake pads in there. Just for comparison, that where my fingernail is basically the remainder of the old brake pad, and it's supposed to look like that. So it's definitely time for new pads. These are ceramic select brake pads, so they shouldn't create as much brake dust. To get these bolts off, 17mm, I did need to use like a huge breaker bar. They're on there pretty good. But this should give you enough leverage and torque to get them off. And then never let this just dangle. You're going to put too much tension on the brake line, so just find a box or something to kind of rest it on. So on the brake caliper itself, there's this little rod that you have to take out. But in order to take it out, there's this little clamp there. So you want to go ahead and pull that clamp out and then slide the rod out of its socket there. And then you could also see the two pistons here that you're going to have to compress to fit the new brake pad in. As you saw from a little bit earlier, the new brake pad's going to take quite a bit more room, so to make the room, you got to push that back in. Okay, so the next step, what I did was kind of just put these 17mm bolts on. It's still pretty loose, just to kind of hold the assembly in place. I have the old brackets on the new brake pads. Basically, I'm just going to hit these with some brake cleaner and then apply some grease. This stuff here to kind of prevent it from seizing up when we put it back in the assembly. And then once that's done, we're just going to slide the brake pads into place. Alright, so I got the brake grease applied to the pad, or to the outside, and then we just kind of slide it into the side. So all we'll do is kind of just put it in and guide it into place. And when you're doing this, there's a hole here. You just want to make sure the holes are kind of aligned. And then you do the other one the same way. Important thing to mention, the pad on the inside has this little clip on it. Make sure that's on the inside. And then once that's in, what you're going to do is get your clip and kind of place it there. It has little grooves, so it's either going to stay in those grooves or it's not. So find those grooves and kind of match up the hole and insert your clip the same way you took it out. So the clip isn't just going to go in, you're going to have to push this clip in and then push the pin through like so. Once you have that clip held together with the pin, go ahead and insert this smaller clip through the opening. So while you're putting this pin in, make sure the hole is accessible. There you go. So once you finish, you want to make sure you torque down the 17mm bolts that are holding the caliper assembly in place, and also properly torque down the wheel and make sure to close up your brake reservoir. This job isn't necessarily hard. You need basic tools to complete it. I would definitely recommend allocating 2 or 3 hours to complete the job and have fun with it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. If not, hit the like button and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.